So I'm sharing the link.
And we are live.
Yeah, we are live. Okay. I think we already got some questions in the chat.
Yeah, okay.
Let's read them out, or
So let's just make it easier. Let's prefix the question with the letter question, so we can easily see them. And also, we have so many groups now, so we will probably mainly focus on the Ubports group and the Ubports fan club. Those are the two groups that we will focus on taking questions from.
maybe you can tell us that short link to join the Telegram group again, if they're not already in there. Did you set up a redirect?
Yes, that's just Ubports/Telegram. So.
Great.
Okay, so we should go over what we said on Yetse, just to make clear. So let's start from the beginning. What we have discussed, and really our short-term plan now is to keep Unity 8 and Mirror and the whole stack as it is for now. And we'll build our own Unity 8 version into the system server. But everything that's around it will stay as it is if we don't have any needs of changing them. We will also try the idea out of running Mir on top of Wayland. I already been looking into it a little bit, and it seems like that's our best short-term solution to the Mir problem, because maintaining our own display server is not something we wish to do, because that will be an intense job. Even though we do only rely on the Android side of things, the Android drivers and the Android Mir server, that already is built, but we still have to update it in newer version of both libhybrids and newer version of Android. Um, but if we do this with Wayland, the Wayland support is already directly implemented in libhybrid. So then, when a new version of libhybrids come, we will be sure that Wayland/Mir is also working. So the base idea is to make a server client, or server that is a Wayland client on Mir, which means you have Wayland on the bottom, then Mir on top, and then you have Unity 8 on top of that again. That is the short-term solution that we will probably try our best to do. After that, we will probably look into the solution of completely porting Unity 8 to run solely on Qt Wayland, which is the main goal. Next, after that, or in the meantime, while we still are unsure about these things, and nothing is final yet. So in the meantime, while we wait, we will make sure to have the infrastructure, the server infrastructure, our own. We probably have to have our own click store slash snap store eventually, since the support for canonical store will probably drop really soon, probably sooner than we expect. And then we really need to be ready to handle that situation. So that is something we will be working on the coming on this month probably. And also the infrastructure around the updates, get a better system in place there for the updates, and how how we manage updates and how the different channels on the system server is very now they are kind of confusing, and some of them do not make sense for most people. We have like devil underscore RC proposal, and then we had RC proposal, and then devil underscore. I think we had devil underscore stable also. So it's quite a confusing system that we have now, and completely remove that and have just three things, which is devil, which is daily, RC proposal, which is around weekly, and stable, which is around monthly. These things are not final yet, but that's how it's looking like to be now. Also, we got a quite of questions about the existing devices, and our solution there will be we will probably continue supporting them, but they will probably be in a legacy mode. Especially the BQ phones, because they are getting out of life already. Um, so those devices will probably be on that legacy mode, and with the legacy mode, we mean the devices that will still continue to get the updates that it gets now with the 1504, but it probably won't get the 1604 update, or nor will it get a newer version of Android. Um, but we can't really operate the Android part of the commercial devices because the Android 3 there is closed source. So we had no way of modifying that or upgrading that, and then we have to completely do a new port on those devices, and that's something we will not do.
So the only reason why we are taking over the existing devices from Canonical is that we can, if we decide to work on the OS itself, that we can also ship these changes to the existing devices via Ubports. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And also to maintain the apps there. If Canonical decides to close down the store, a device without an app store is it's yeah,
worse than already. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the main idea around that. Okay, so I see. So we can start with some questions now that we got the core idea out of the way. Does the MySU profile will be supported by CM10? Yes, it probably will, and that device might also be one of the devices that is outside this legacy mode, because it has such a powerful hardware that we still is a device that still is usable. So that's probably one of the devices, official devices, that we will get 1604 when we eventually get that, but it will not get the Android updates if there is some any. Right now, there's no benefits of upgrading Android, but if there is some, we'll probably not. We cannot upgrade because it's closed source. And the same goes for MX4. I with the MX4, it's a bit on the edge here. I don't know what we will decide on that yet, but there will be either it will be under a hat, but they won't. But the question will be if it will be a legacy device or a normal device. But my guess right now, or how I seeing it, I think that will be a legacy device.
Yeah, it really only makes sense for the Pro 5 in terms of hardware.
Yeah, Pro 5 and maybe
the MX4 is fine, but there are other that we have already enough powerful devices to work on, and the MX4 is that great to let it into the other devices.
Yeah, we also have the tablet, which is already has the upgrade, so that will probably stay outside the legacy devices. But keep that in mind that we need devices to maintain this if we want to upgrade something. The legacy device does not require you to develop that much, because that is still using what Canonical have already done. But for a device that's outside of the legacy mode, does need some handle and care. Probably not that much with the official devices, since they has a pretty solid Android core. So there's a little bit debate there. But for those two devices, I think it will be the BQ tablet and the profile. Rest of them will be in legacy mode. Christian, how about desktop? Desktop is something we also need when we have the idea of it converged. We do need to maintain the desktop side of things. That's also, we won't support it in Mir. We won't develop anything more desktop related for Mir probably. But if Mir gets the Wayland, if Mir gets a Wayland server, it is possible to use that on desktop, and then you will have the support in the Wayland. But the desktop side of things, with Unity 8, we do need to develop on that, with one purpose of Converge, which is one of the things we really want. Since that's one of the things that Ubuntu stands out is the Converge idea. And me myself really believes that that Converge is the way to go forward, as evidence with Samsung now making their own Converge idea. Next question. Okay, yeah.
Next questions from Rudy is how could he help with his device as a tester or as a reporter? Are there any options how he could contribute to the project?
Yes, there is. For the testing of the devices, currently we have a Google form which will step you through the steps that need to be tested, and then you can send in a test report there. But we really want to have a better way of doing this. So that's also something we need to focus on getting the docs more docs ready that can explain better on how to do the testing and how to go through with it. Now there is really a lack of information. We have a Google Docs, but most of the people don't know about the Google Docs or / Google Forms, really.
Google Forms, yeah.
Yeah. So that's something we need to focus on also. But also,
are we still using Launchpad for bug tracking?
Yeah, for bug tracking, yeah, we use Launchpad, which is now split up to our 3 main devices, which has Ubports N5, Ubports Oppo, and Ubports FP2, which is Fairphone, Nexus 5, and OnePlus One. So you can also use the device and just test the device, and if there is a bug, report it on our Launchpad. That will help us a lot with the testing. You don't need to do the QI testing as I was referring to with the Google form, but more in general, testing the device and just using it and reporting bugs is also something that is really needed to have a stable device.
So maybe we could put the link to the Launchpad bug testing sites, to our bug report sites, to the ubports.com page, and maybe also the Google form.
Yeah, we already have a link on ubports/get involved to the bug reporting, but I don't think it's that clear. So I think we may have to make it more clear.
Okay, great. Another question that came up, and it's from Joanne Cybersheep. It's what will happen to the notification service and the services that are dependent on Ubuntu, like the Ubuntu One login.
Ubuntu One we can still use. That's using OpenID. I think
Yeah, it does.
OpenID. Yeah, so you can still use that perfectly fine with using that. With the push notification, that's also something we discussed. Is we'll probably remove the server side of things that is happening behind there and have everything local. That's really something we want to redefine and get a better system for the push notification. Because the system that is in there now, it's really bad. So that's really something we want to redefine also and get a better system running there and have it. I think you have it more open than it is because it has been way too strict. And open it up more where developers actually can make apps that can make sensible notifications. And
So
also,
we're going to focus more on usability instead of the confinement side.
yes, since we are already moving away from MIR, which is the confinement size there, we are kind of breaking the security layer anyway. But there's also the questions about since we are using such old kernel anyway, the security level is that really necessary when you have such old kernel anyway. We are using the Android kernel, which is ages old. And that's the same for all Android devices. That this is not something that's specific for us. All Android phones and phones in general. I can't speak for Microsoft and Apple, but all that's based on Android or based on Linux uses an older kernel, which is a security flaw, in my opinion. So we will still have the confinement there. That's not the point here, but having it more open where we don't limit the user, where we don't make a system that is barely usable. That's the point here. We want we don't want to open it fully up. That's not the point here, but to keep it on a level where the user isn't annoyed with it, really, because what's the point with having the security feature if people are getting frustrated and annoying and it's not even possible to use it because you get the notification 5 minutes after you have read the Telegram message. So that's the idea around there, to just open it up more but still have security in mind.
Okay. Another question on Telegram was, why are we not collaborating with the unity8.org guy? That got asked a few times. I don't think we have discussed that in depth yet in our last meeting.
We did discuss it briefly, but the opinion there is that we do have, don't we have some of the guys from unity8.org in the Telegram group?
I think so, yeah.
So we are definitely gonna have a conversation with them. But the main issue then is I see that they do focus on the desktop side of things, while we focus on the mobile and / Converge, which is essentially desktop. So Converge will probably benefit from them when I make changes to the desktop. But the phone side of things is where we will probably focus most on. We will definitely try our best to the best thing would be to merge it completely together to have one. That is definitely the best thing, because having two Unity 8 forks makes 0 to no sense.
Yeah.
So, but the idea here is that if we do it as it is now and merge together with each other, we can still have our own branches, but we contribute to each other. That's probably the easiest way to go. The same way as you can take an example is in how libhybrid is doing it, where Canonical is making one libhybrid and then contributing to back to libhybrids and vice versa. So it'll probably be something the same around those lines. So we are definitely not gonna ignore that and do it on our own, because that does not make sense. So we will definitely have probably lots of conversation with them and try our best to keep. The best thing is to keep them exactly the same, really, where the code base is following each other and it's exactly the same. So when we make a change, they have the same change. So yeah.
He's also asking if we're going to collaborate with Plasma Mobile or Sailfish.
We had this discussion a while ago on getting closer to Sailfish, and that's also something I that's still on the table, and that's really something we want to do, because the hardware layer there doesn't need to be separate. Or when I say the hardware layer, the Android layer and the hybrids and those stuff doesn't need to be separate, since they essentially have the same goal. So there, if we could have a system in place where we have the same hardware layer, Android layer, libhybrid layer, we could benefit from each other, because when, for example, we make a port, the port will automatically work for Sailfish and Plasma guys if we all have the same Android libhybrid hardware enablement stack. That will be amazing if we can make something like that happen, because the hardest thing is definitely the hardware enablement. Porting a new device is definitely something that takes time, takes effort. There's no straightforward guideline of that. It's not like you don't have a single goal for it to code code this bit and it does work. It's more like you have to go deep into the code. You have to debug what's wrong. You have to debug why it's not working here. And every device is different. Every chipset is different. And the hardware enablement part, if we can collaborate on that part, that will be absolutely amazing. So me and probably everyone else in this group is open for working together with both Sailfish and Plasma Mobile, since essentially we have the same goal, and we have big companies like Google and Apple, and we can compete with them. There's no point of us trying to compete with them alone anyway. So if we join the forces, we have a bigger chance of success for everyone.
Yeah. Also, Simon quickly has asked, he knew that we are going to split the Ubports team in some departments and some certain teams. He was asking what are the certain roles for each of the individual departments that we've just created in our last meeting.
With the department, you mean teams?
The teams, yeah.
So the goals for the team, is that what you're asking, essentially?
Yeah.
The goal for the team is to have a more structured community, where we also, first of all, why we have the groups is because the Ubports groups now have 200 members. And if, for example, one developer leaves a matches in US time, and when for example, when I have European time and when I arrive, there will probably be 200 messages and the message that he sent is buried long in the stack, in the chat log. So that's why we created dedicated groups to solely focus on. For example, we have the development group, which is only development. There's no other things that will be chatted about there. Only development, to keep it clean and to make it more easy for the developers to look through what a guy from US time zone said, because with time zone, it's a mess. and also the same for all the other groups. And also with also one of the other things with the groups is decision making. Is where the different teams have responsibility for their team or for their part of the community. So we don't have, first of all, so we don't because if we would have like everyone had to be with to make a decision, for example, in the server thing, and everyone need to vote on everything. That's a strategy that does take a lot of time because then we have to wait for everyone to join, and we need to talk with everyone for every decision we want to make. And that's not something that's really a bad idea of doing it, because we would waste so much of our time just waiting for or to answer. So it does make sense where the team that is does developing and have the knowledge about the developing take the decisions in developing, and the team that does, for example, design, we don't have design yet, but as an example, it doesn't make sense for a developer to take decision as a designer. So that's essentially what the groups is about.
Yeah, there's also the communication team that we've created, which is basically just for that we don't get in the situation that certain sites create blog posts about say, things we do that they just learn from some Google Plus posts or something like that, so that we concentrate on communicating with them, and get it out without any errors.
Yeah, and also I think the communication group can have a bit of responsibility to also manage the community. That also the moderator is, if someone goes nuts in the Ubports group, to kick them out, for example.
Sure.
I think that's also a task for uh, like communication/community group, I would say.
Yeah, we should probably rename that.
Yeah.
There's also the QA team. Maybe you could say a bit about that.
Yeah, the QA team is responsible for testing, do real in-depth testing of the device to ensure the quality of our device, really, and to report any bugs that they find, and to also see that if stuff is broken, and that we know about it, because not all of the developers use, because we have many devices, and we don't test them daily. For example, I have used my OnePlus One as my daily driver now. So for example, if something had happened on the Fairphone, I wouldn't know. So that also some of the responsibility for the QA group to make sure that that thing is smooth on the updates, that thing is working, and the QA group is more is also, they don't have, each person don't have responsibility for all devices, but if, for example, you own a Fairphone and you use it daily, that's a great task to be on the QA group to since you're using it daily, you would know if something breaks. We also know if something is wrong, if something is buggy. So that's also more like a daily QA user. You don't necessarily have to sit down and test it manually. That's something we will have to do for a stable branch, but we don't expect people to do that on every daily release. So that's more a task of having it, just using as a daily driver is enough for a daily QA test, I would say. And the last group is infrastructure. If the group that's responsible for the infrastructure, the server infrastructure, the stuff that's all the things that's technical that goes around maintaining updates, click servers, and all those stuff. And also they probably will have tight connection with the development group also to make the developing happen for the servers.
Okay. Another question was about the open store. Will that continue? Will that be integrated in our images? How will that work?
The plan there is not completely done yet, but as it looks like, we would either fork the open store, or if the guys, because I know that the open store is shutting down, so maybe
Yeah.
we can continue it. That would be the easiest thing. Then we already have some apps in there, and we'll probably import all the apps from the Ubuntu store into it eventually. So that's the plan there. So either we will fork it or continue it. So either way, we will use it. Yes.
So are there any other questions?
Yeah, there's a bit of them in.
There was one about the money. How will we finance all of this?
Well,
we've got our Patreon page.
We have a Patreon, and we have PayPal. But financing all this will be a huge task, definitely. First of all, servers is getting quite expensive. And second of all, devices, which is probably the most expensive of all. That will be, right now, it's not a problem, because our server is somewhat sponsored, not a build server, and probably not our infrastructure server that will handle everything, like that will handle the click store and everything, because they need quite a lot of power, so they will probably be on our dedicated server. But else than that, we have our web server was sponsored by DigitalOcean, but that expired some time ago. But I haven't asked them again. I can probably just ask them if they want to continue supporting us. But for a web server, that's probably not an issue, because that's not so expensive as the dedicated servers are. So the server infrastructure right now is doing fine. It will probably do fine in about a half year with the funds that we have now. The dedicated server is already paid for 6 months, so that one is fine, and it can probably live a year from now in total. Next in that, we also have the devices. Yes, and the server it's okay for the moment. With the devices, that's going to be a huge problem, because the community members and the QA team do need to have devices, and also newer devices that will come further down the line is also something that we need. But right now, I don't think we should worry that much about it. Most of it because we can't do much about it right now. We could set up a Kickstarter, but Kickstarter is kind of sketchy, I would say. It might be if we have an end goal. For example, if we have a Kickstarter for porting Unity to Wayland or something like that, that might be an option, but that's not something we have discussed. So right now we shouldn't really worry about getting more, really, because the server will live for about a year, and the devices, we don't need newer devices for a while now, because we have lots of other things to take handle of. So until we get on other devices, newer devices, we don't need it. But then again, the other question about funding is something that might be an option. Is hiring people full time. That is definitely something we would need in some time. And right now, we could probably do it as we do now, but it would take longer. But if we could say hire three people to work on this full time, the project would move. I would probably 6 times faster. Because working on, like, for example, me, like, working after school, and working after that, I don't have that much time left. But if I could use all the time that I use for school, I could see myself uh, swapping two devices and polish them really quickly, because compared to 8 hours a day, and probably more because I would sit all day if I know me, but compare 8 hours to, because I'm leaving school at 5 and I have to have dinner and everything, so let's say 3 hours a day. Compare 3 hours with 8 hours, probably more than 8 hours a day, and you can see the difference there. And also, not only me, but for example, hire someone for the infrastructure team to take care of all that, where that will go smoothly without any problem, and hire something that can completely monitor that. And then the developers of the devices and Unity don't have to worry at all about the infrastructure. Right now, we are kind of shared. Like, I'm working on probably everything, and the other developers probably will do too. But if you can hire someone to dedicate just for the infrastructure, and if there is nothing to do on the infrastructure, he can do other things on the project. But the main goal of hiring one to just do the infrastructure. Hiring people is definitely something, but the main thing, the thing is that hiring someone full time is expensive. It's really expensive. And right now, I don't even see it as an option based on donations. Then it has to be something else we need to do if we want to hire someone. Based on donation, I really don't think right now I don't see that as a possibility.
No.
We could probably get a deal with someone if you could sell 1+1, for example. That might be an option, but then again, getting into the whole legal side of things, getting responsibility for all that is also going to take a lot of time. But that's something we can consider. But I don't think it will be as easy as flashing a 1+1 and selling it. I think it's a lot more work than that, because the Qualcomm drivers, I don't think we can sell that. We probably can resell with the same drivers that is shipped with exactly the same drivers that is shipped with 1+1, for example, or OnePlus, the exactly the same binary blobs. Then there is a loophole there, because we are allowed to resell the device. We are allowed to modify the software, but we are not allowed to modify the proprietary software. So we can modify anything else than the proprietary software if we want to sell it. But that's completely out of this. I don't see that as a possibility right now.
Okay, so long story short about the funding, we will talk about that. We will probably get some new stuff going. But for now, if people want to pitch us a few bucks, they can go to ubports.com/get involved, and there's a PayPal link and our Patreon link. So that's for now.
Yes.
Also, you've mentioned that we are not really doing a Kickstarter campaign anytime soon. There was also some other question about Kickstarter. Is the station dog still a thing, or are we still working on that?
The station dog is still a thing. A lot of stuff have happened that I made the station dog postponed a lot, I would say. The plan was to release the Kickstarter before right.
February, I guess.
Yeah, it was in actually it was the end of February or something like that. I said on Ubicon, and we are 2 months delayed, I would say. But that is something that's continue working on. But that's also this thing that happened now will take time away from that, and the same with other stuff and infrastructure and everything will take my time away from working on that. But what we can do is that it's based on Raspberry Pi. We, we might even open source it. It will be open source anyway, but where people can build. There was the possibility to build their own, but maybe possibility to build their own before we release the Kickstarter might be an idea. But I'm might little bit scared that our whole plan would be completely ripped off by a Chinese company or something like that. I don't think that's something that would happen, but that would be a possibility if something like that. If we do something like that, because then the software and everything and the instruction and everything is clear. It's just for China to manufacture it, and then if they do, we would be screwed. We can still use their device, but we have no control over the software on that, because they will probably modify our software to their own liking.
Great. Also another question was Unity 8/mir/Ubuntu Touch will keep the same goal direction, or will we use the already built software to create our own operating system? So are we following the same plans as Canonical, or are we just using the code and trying to get it to follow more our ideas?
We haven't really decided this yet. What we really decided is just following what Canonical is doing for now, and then we will decide later what we'll do. There is no clear plan for that. There's really this news is still really fresh, so we haven't really come together with a concrete solution yet. But for now, we will probably stay how Canonical wishing it.
There was also a question about if we're going to, I can't find it, but the question was if we're going to make the Sailfish apps compatible with Ubuntu, because they are somehow identical or nearly identical in the code.
They both run Qt and C++, but the problem is that we use, they have their own hardware API and we have our own hardware API. So we might make a binding there, but there's no, for now, there's no plan for it. We could make a binding that just translate our API into their API and vice versa. That would be a possibility, but then I think the user interface would look, because there are two different, and with Converge idea, I don't know how well Sailfish app would scale, but that's definitely something we can consider. But porting a Sailfish app is something that is definitely possible to change out the Ubuntu specific APIs and then just. But if someone wants to make a completely cross-platform, they could just use Qt tools. If they just use Qt and just use normal C++ without using Ubuntu API or Sailfish API, they would probably just work on both of them. You just have to recompile it to a different package format. But the problem is the difference of API. As far as I know, I'm not an app developer, but that's as far as I know.
The guy who asked the question also mentioned that it could be maybe easier if we are also going to support snaps on mobile. I think we have said that we are going to try to support on the existing devices, but we don't have anything specific at the moment.
Yeah, so we decided that we should try out at least the Snap apps, but then we will not do the Snap update system because first thing, it's not built by anyone. Canonical, I don't think they have any Snap update devices except IoT, but they don't have any Snap mobile devices that does the updating. So with Snap updates, we will not do that until Canonical find something, but I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. But with apps, we will probably try our best to get that implemented. So yeah.
I've also just got a like message on Telegram about the snaps itself on the M10 tablet from EQ. The problem with that is that wasn't really a completely snapified image. It was just the regular click and dep based image with snapd running on top of it, and also kind of destroying everything else that's running around it. That wasn't really the completely snapified image, so that's not an option for us yet. Even Canonical wasn't that far into it, so that we can't adapt this. Yep. Any other questions?
Another question was, will we fix critical bugs from Launchpad that are known on Ubuntu Touch, that have been known on Ubuntu Touch for a while now?
Yes, that's definitely something we want to do. If we want to polish the devices and polish the OS, we definitely need to fix the critical bugs and also fix the bugs that annoys the most. Because a device that has a bug that has been standing there since 2014 and still annoys you to this days, it's a reason for that user to abandon because they don't see a progress in the project. So updating or fixing those bugs is something we really want to do, but then again, we are limited amount of users and developers. So, but the most painful of the bugs we will probably fix soon. But the bugs that don't affect people directly, that don't makes the device seem unpolished. Those bugs probably won't get prioritized in this in this time frame, because we are really just focusing on getting the device and the OS to a state where you don't have those annoying things that just bugs you every time you try to call someone, for example. So definitely fix the most critical bugs. That is definitely something we need to do. And also reporting the most critical bugs, that is definitely something everyone should do.
Yeah. So, but you shouldn't expect, I don't know, where we OTA 16 or something like that in the next 2 weeks. That's not going to happen. Not that soon.
Oh.
Also, another person is asking if it will be hard for us to do all of this without Canonical, and I think the answer is simply yes. But since Canonical moved away from it, we don't have anyone else who could move on that.
It's simply yes and no, I would say,
Right.
because the community have a weird thing that if something is made by Canonical, it mostly only Canonical that made it. But now that Canonical is not developing it, lots of community members will come and help out, and we might. That's a weird thing that does happen. For example, you can just take an example with Unity 8. Is that when Canonical had it in their hands, they was probably the only only Canonical employers was the only one that was developing on that. But when it's outside of Canonical, we see a different things where a lot of people come in and wants to help out and really wants to drive this forward as a community. So this is time will see how this will develop. Right now, if we as it is right now, it will be harder without Canonical. But if we get like already we have a huge increase in users and people that want to help out with this project in just one day. Really, it was just yesterday, and it just exploded. And we can see that as an example in how the community works when Canonical is not in leadership. It's not dictating it. It's a weird thing, but that is a yes or no question. There's not sure yet. Right now, it's harder without Canonical, but later, who knows?
Thank you, Jan. The next question about the guide.
What you say?
Oh, okay. There was a question, when will there be finally a guide on the Ubports website for supporting Ubuntu?
Right. Yes.
There are a
That
few
have been
problems with that, yeah.
yeah, that have been a bit back and forwards. The first thing was to have it on developer.ubuntu.com, and then it was they didn't want to update it again. And it was going back and forward all the time. But now that Canonical is kind of not in the ballpark anymore, I definitely think we should focus on getting those docs ready and having our own. Because this discussion back then was to merge them together and have one big one, and it didn't go to plan. I don't know how many times I have asked Canonical, but that's for now. We have to make our own. Probably the best thing would be to copy the existing one, extend it, and make individual parts that explain the individual parts. For example, one session that just focus on how to get the device working with Wi-Fi, for example, and how to get this working with Bluetooth. That's something we also need to focus on. But copying the existing one will probably be the best thing to do, because that's already the framework around it is there, but it doesn't go detailed enough to explain what to do if you want Bluetooth on it, and what to do if Wi-Fi isn't working. It doesn't explain that. It just explains how to build it. You kind of expect everything to just work when you flash it, and sadly, that's never gonna happen.
Another question is, what are our personal feelings about Mark's move? Do we feel somehow ditched?
What? Max move?
Marx.
How do we feel
Shuttleworth.
about Mark's move, yeah? To drop the phones and Unity 8. How do we feel about that personally?
With Mark? I'm not with you here.
I see. How do we feel about Mark's move to drop the phones and Unity 8 in the air?
Oh, Mark Zuckerberg. Yes.
Yeah.
I see it. I completely understand why he does it. Because when it's losing, I think they said like 30 millions or something every year, 30 million pounds every year. I completely see why they are doing it. I don't think that Mark wants to do it. I at this point I think he's forced to do it. It really seems like it, because he probably if he had decided, and if he probably if Canonical didn't lose money, this will probably not happen, or this wouldn't have happened, I would say. because this was solely a business decision. I really see that they are laying off people, and I on that point I can't really comment on it since it's such a huge amount of loss, and with that I can't really can't really argue with him on that. It's just losing that much money is just insane. That's in general. I don't have any opinion or hard feelings for Marx doing this. So
Yeah, I think he really didn't have another choice. He wanted to do this. He pushed for convergence a long time, but yeah, there's obviously he just couldn't afford it anymore with Canonical, so he had to stop it. But if we can continue this, it's not everything is lost. So yeah.
yeah, I really think Mark would really appreciate seeing this succeed.
Well, as we've both seen at MWC in Barcelona, both this year and last year, he was definitely going up for the idea, and he was definitely trying to realize it. But I can also totally understand why he did it. Absolutely don't like his decision, absolutely, but I can fully understand it. The thing that isn't that great about all the decision is that there are many people who lost their job because of his somehow spontaneous decision. It was kind of out of a sudden. It wasn't spontaneous for him, obviously, but there were no warnings or something like that. And that's the part that I really don't like about it, because there are actually people who don't have their jobs anymore because of this.
Yes, and that's really sad that this should happen this way. I really think Mark should do it in a more long-term solution if they wanted to shut down this thing. But it seems like he really pushes to get this working, and put forces into it, and then just drops faster than a rock. Just I would rather see it slowly go down, and maybe just or maybe even realize this before it has going this far. Is maybe they could focus more on desktop in the beginning, then this probably wouldn't have happened, because they mainly focus on phones, and then they wanted to make this phone platform over to desktop. And if they started both ways, with both desktop and phones at the same times, I think there would be a different outcome. But that's just speculating. It's just not really something to speculate about, really. So.
Which
Yeah,
I should. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that it's a bit weird in a certain way, because obviously they're not making money off phones, but at the same time, it's kind of like what did Mark expect, considering that even Microsoft can't get into the market, and Sailfish, they almost went down and bankrupt trying to make a phone operating system. So I don't know. It's very difficult, but we want to pick up some slack where we can.
I don't think he expected to earn on it that much. It's the same with the desktop. It's more of what Marks want, and the image about Ubuntu and all this stuff. I really don't think the intention of starting the phone project. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was, let's make this and make money. I really don't think that was the intention for it. I think it was giving something to the Ubuntu community, and also what Canonical is really good at is innovating and changing the Linux communities, just pushing hard on new stuff. And this is something I really love about Canonical, is that they're really dare, and they dare to try. They're not scared to try. They're not scared to fail. And that's really something I really love about Canonical. But at some point, it has to stop. You can't you can't just go on and go on and go on, because as we have seen with this, it's going like a roller coaster. First it was phones, then it was Snap, and then it was IoT, and then it's I think the market is going too fast, than Canonical. It's not going too fast, but they want to do everything. Kind of like us, in one way.
Yeah.
We want, but I really love Canonical for really trying and really changing the Linux community because they do. For example, with Plasma Mobile and they want a Converge idea. I really don't think that would be so strong if Canonical didn't make Ubuntu Touch. I don't think Plasma Mobile would might not even be a thing because they use most of the thing that Ubuntu Touch is using. So that's also.
Yeah, I think we've got to really give a round of applause for all the developers who got Ubuntu to this stage and got
Yes.
Linux to this stage as well, because they really have made a big impact on the Linux.
Absolutely.
I really have to say a huge thank you to all at Canonical, and huge thank you to Mark for even allowing this. Without him, this wouldn't be a possibility. And that's he is giving so much, because this is a project he don't earn money on. This is a project that he personally just want to give, and at least that's what it's starting about, and that's still how it is. And like there's, if you take an example in both Red Hat and SUSE, I can't pronounce that, OpenSUSE, but both of them are not doing this kind of things. They are not trying these kind of things, that trying these unsure things, or these things that is really new, and they're not trying things without making sure that this is something they want to make money on. So that's, I really love Canonical for that, and I really don't get why people are hating on Canonical, because they are doing much more good than doing worse in the Ubuntu community.
Yeah, I agree. We also, we just talked about mostly on the phone side of things, but we should also don't forget that they also pitched Mir, the server, and Unity 8 and Unity 7 all together, and going back to GNOME, which is, I think, for all of us a bit out of the sudden. That's none of us would have expected. We were kind of worried that they would do the move to Unity 8 too soon, but we didn't expect that they would shut down and go back to GNOME. That was definitely unexpected.
Yeah. That was really unexpected, but I don't know. They might make a team for GNOME that looks like Unity. That would be great.
As long as they give me my HUD.
Yeah, that's also a funny thing. That's also where I said, that you were thankful for Mark that he even tried and started the whole thing. All the community things that has evolved since the phone project started, like Chloe is asking, I think, for almost 2 years about when the HUD arrives in Unity 8, which is also a great thing, and great projects that have evolved and got created around it. So I'm really hoping that most of them try to move on and don't drop all the work. But we are basically on our own now.
Yeah, the HUD. That's a common question for Chloe. The HUD. Sadly, the HUD will probably go away now.
Well, I think I'm not allowed to announce that, but I'm really not. But maybe it's not going away that much. There are other projects and other maybe flavors we're trying to implement it at the moment. I think that's all I'm allowed to say.
You know you are live in front of 30
That's
people.
why I do it on podcast as well, but I think that's absolutely what I can say, nothing more.
Yeah.
Maybe in the
No.
next hangout.
Now you will get a lot of people pinging you on Telegram. What is what all about?
It's already
Yeah,
happening.
well-
It's funny.
I was gonna say just like DM me in Telegram.
Okay, so next question.
I think Florian wanted to ask a question that he has written in the Telegram chat.
Yeah, if they didn't lose the question already in the meantime. Come on, in which group it was? I'm a little
I think
bit
it was the
overlooked.
Firefox OS one.
Yes, there was the question if we can take some ideas or concepts from Firefox OS, even if maybe this is already a long time. But yeah, I don't know if it's possible, so I just pass on the question.
We already have. We have the AGBS, which is from Mozilla/Firefox.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think there is much we can take from them because first of all they use a Gecko, which we are completely we are using Chrome-based things, and also the hardware stack is pretty similar really. I haven't really looked into it that deeply, but I assume I know they're using libhybris, but more than that, I haven't really, I don't really know much about it. There might be stuff we can use, but then right now I really don't know.
Didn't we talk about that part at UberCon Europe in your session? Or was that with the Safish guys? I think we
Yes,
talked about, that was separate, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
There was a question about the name of the OS. Will we keep Ubuntu Touch or will we change that? Or
Oh yeah, that will also be a difficult question. I don't know if we are allowed to keep it.
From what we've asked a few of the canonical legal guys about that before, and I think technically we could keep the name. That would be fine. The question is, do we want to do that, or do we want to choose something different?
For me, right now, no. But in the future, it maybe would be to be better because then people won't get confused that this is a canonical project. But maybe if we could go under as a flavor of Ubuntu, that would also be an option. But I don't know if that would allow for the phones. But if not, if we can't be a flavor of some sort, we probably need to change our name to avoid people thinking that this is a canonical project, which then people would go to canonical to ask questions, and same for phone manufacturer, they would go to canonical instead of going to us. So
yeah, I think we'll have to look into that, but it's too early to.
We
Yeah.
also to keep in mind that there are a few things on the code side of things that are all named in the strings with Ubuntu Phone or Ubuntu Touch that we also have to change then. So it's maybe not a question that we should ask right now.
yeah, and on the same topic of name, Unity 8, it will probably stay as Unity 8 because we have no reason for changing it yet. For now, there is no reason for changing it, and people know of Unity 8. The reason of changing the name now would not be a great idea, because if you change your name to something completely different, then you have to do the marketing completely again, and you have to market that you changed the name so people know that this is actually Unity 8, but they changed the name. So right now, Unity 8, no, that's a really bad idea to change name. And really same for the phone too. Right now, we should really wait to people know us better before we change name.
There's also a question, what will happen to the core apps? Will we support them as well, or will we work on them, or continue to work on them?
That's for now. Yes, we will need to develop on them, but we probably won't add any new features anytime soon. We will probably just maintain them and hold them in a steady case until we get all the other things sorted out first, because that we really need to sort out the Unity mirror and all the stuff before we think about even changing something in for example the core apps.
Yeah. Also, Rudy just mentioned that he heard the word UboCon. I think we can also give them a small shout out. The UboCon Europe this year will happen in Paris, so you could just go to ubocon.paris. Paris is actually a top level domain by now. It's in September 8th, 9th, and the 10th. And he's asking, will we also join the UboCon Europe this year?
I will join. I will definitely join.
Yeah, me too.
So we already have 3 people from the Ubports group going already, so it's safe to say that Ubports is going, I would say.
Yeah.
And I already discussed with him about having a session or maybe a workshop kind of things where we can show off devices, and also maybe we could do some live porting again.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, I know I had
to.
It worked out so great last time. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It absolutely did.
It was an absolutely interesting session, but we didn't do much porting on that.
Well, the problem was time.
Yeah.
For live porting, I think I need like a whole Ubicon day for doing that.
Ubicon month.
Ubicon month, yes. A whole month. Just fly everyone to Paris. We will be there for a whole month, do porting, just porting.
So Rudy, there you have it. If you're going to plan the next event, we are up for it.
Yeah, yes. The Ubports porting month, where we all be sent to a hotel.
Kind of sounds like a national holiday or something.
Yeah. We need to do it. That will be good if we can have some a porting month where a lot of people will come and port. But now we are going way out of what we should talk about. So next question.
The next question is, well, I already had that one with the core apps. Another one for the core apps. Is it possible to fork the core apps to GitHub so it's easier to access them? So the situation is that they are currently hosted on Launchpad and got maintained on Launchpad. It's technically possible. I don't know much about the licensing. If that's okay, if we could, well, we technically could fork them to another platform, to another hosting platform. That wouldn't be the problem. Yeah, and I think it's. As our code base is on Launchpad, on GitHub, it's kind of reasonable for us to do. So I guess as soon as we start to work on the core apps, whenever that will be, then we will move them to GitHub especially. So that will definitely happen, I guess.
Yeah, and they're definitely moving away from Bazaar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like Launchpad. It's a really powerful tool, and I'm using it actually very often. But GitHub is it's such a nice experience.
It only makes sense to use Git. Everyone else is using Git.
Yeah.
Except Canonical. It's like, yeah.
Just a note from my side, because I already started to try to play a little bit with this Telegram stuff. Of course, I will be very unsuccessful in the beginning. But I think it will be one part of the game that certain people would select core app where they want to work on. And of course, I think if nothing is against it, the first thing that you would do is to transfer everything to Git somehow, even if it's just the last checkout and losing all the commit history or whatever, no problem.
There is a tool for conversion.
Yeah, technically we can move the whole stack, including all the other commits. That's not an issue.
Even that would be not a problem, I think, because anyway, nobody will help us so much from that point onward. So you have to take what's here, look at the bugs that are in Launchpad maybe open. There's a lot of bugs open for certain core apps, I know. I have filed myself a lot of them. But I think this is a different part of where Ubports will not be leading the action. this should be really, let's say, we should see how this develops, how the people come up with wanting to help us out. Somebody here was already asking now if he should consider Click or Snap development for the apps. I would say at the moment there is so much things to do on the existing core apps, and they will be click-based for the moment. But who knows? I would leave it open for the developers if they want to join in for the core apps or something else. But it will be not really under our authority. Yeah?
Well, in terms of OS or of corps, the corps are really the only thing besides the OS and the hardware stack that we could work on, because all the other apps are, if they're not updated, they're still maintained by their original developers, and they're very, very welcome to submit the apps into the new store system that we are trying to create and move on from there. But that's not the thing that we are looking for to maintain. We are only looking for the core apps because they're I don't know if that's clear for everyone, because the core apps got developed and got maintained by Canonical itself. So that's why we also have to move over to them. So
didn't Canonical say that most of the core app development was done by the community anyways?
Mhm.
well, not completely actually. I think that there was absolutely a most contribution were from Canonical, but there were also significant part of contribution from the community more than on all of the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that also comes back to what I say. It's like when it's under a hat of Canonical, usually you get more outside contribution when it's outside of Canonical. So, but that's might be different with the core apps, but at least that's how every other project that Canonical has, nearly every of them. But then, yeah, we will definitely go away from Bazaar and use Git. That's the first thing we will do. And we will probably, what we should really do is just have it on GitHub, and then just have a mirror on Launchpad if someone wants to use that.
Yes.
If we want to use PPA, we need to have a mirror anyway. So that's
Yeah.
so. Then.
I don't
Flo.
think there are any new.
Florian, are you a member of the GitHub developer group? Do you have access to modify?
What?
Do you have access to modify our GitHub repos?
Don't think so.
Okay, then I need to add you then. So
Okay.
next question.
Another question was, I don't know if this is really serious, if this is meant really as a serious question, but if we consider moving to GitLab, I think that's not really.
No.
If we just want to use Git, then that would be an option, but we also want it as easy as possible for others to contribute, and that it has to be GitHub.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes no sense to move or
Yeah,
stuff.
it would be fine if we just want to make it more complicated, but we absolutely don't want that.
Yeah.
We want with GitHub. We want to make it easier because that is the #1 platform that people contribute on, and I see the same thing with Launchpad, is that it's much harder for someone that have never contributed to Launchpad before. There's lots of stuff they need to check up before they can contribute. And with GitHub, it's simple: pull request and you are done. You can even do everything from your web browser. Is getting quite easy. So
Then we finally got a Snap question, I guess. Snap now supports, of us, only kernels above 3.10. So how could we use it on phones, as the majority of phones are using a former kernel, a lower kernel?
yes, there we probably will do backporting, and I believe Canonical have already made a backporting patch for that. So I think that would be the same as I did with Bluetooth, for example, where I have a backporting patch from a newer version. So I'm pretty sure Canonical already made this, So I think that would be okay. If not, if Canonical did not make it, then it will be more of a challenge. Yeah, but I think the phones that will get Snap support will probably get upgraded to at least 3.10 anyway. Because those devices are such new that they do have a newer kernel also.
Joan said on Telegram that Canonical made a backport of snapd to 1404. Can we reuse that somehow?
I don't see. We can, but I don't see how that would be possible because we still need the kernel patches. And for all of the devices that is running on that now does not have the newer kernel. So then it would make no sense to. It would be just confusing where you have one that's called Snap Support, one that's not called Snap Support. Then what we could do is just have an extra download or an extra custom image for the devices that does support Snap. But for example, legacy devices would not get Snap support.
We have to figure out how much some of this stuff is developed as well, because obviously not everything that's been developed has been pushed forward yet. So we have to see how much what's in development and how much has been developed, which hasn't been pushed forward yet, and see what we can do about that.
Yeah, we have to wait for a lot of things to see where we can go with that.
Yeah. So, and then again, Snap is something we should not worry about yet, because we still have back to the mirror issues and all those stuff we have to handle before we even consider implementing Snap or something new at all. Especially
if we want to mostly concentrate on these bugs that have been around for ages. If we want to concentrate on that, then we're not going to get Snap for a while, but that depends where we decide to move, depending on how everything else is developed as well.
Right, yes. Yeah. I don't think I got your question right there, if there was a question.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. I can just take one short from Delton here. It's the thing that we planned before this news came out was to really polish the devices this month. And we have those fancy names with hammer bread and making bacon and all those funny names that Dalton made for us. And Chloe. That was to polish the device and release them to the stable channel, and also set up the newer server update system where we remove the older channel and just have 3 channels. I really think we should focus on that. I don't think we should abandon that, because it is still a really important task of what we're doing. I really think we should, but some of it, the infrastructure has, with the server and everything, has kind of blend together with it, but with the server things I was talking about. But for the devices, I really think we should focus on that also, and polishing those devices. So I think that's a yes, but I don't think we can do it in time that we set before this news come, because this news broke everything, the plan. So I don't expect it to be polished to the end of this month, but definitely that is something we need to do.
Right. So I think, are there any new questions?
Yeah, there's another question also from Dalton. He's asking what will happen to Mir. Will we move to Rayland, or how's that gonna work?
Well, the plan there is not clear yet. We will probably see what happened. But in the short-term plan would be to have Mir on top of Wayland, where we have a Mir Wayland server that just connects to Wayland. That is the short-term plan, but it's still not 100% yet.
Okay.
Okay, I think we maybe should wrap it up. I think we're here for, I don't know, longer than we intended to.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was a good session. We got a lot of questions, and I think we got a lot of the questions that people wanted to hear solved.
Yeah.
And I really think if you guys from the Unity8.org community is listening somewhere here, I really wish we can find something out to work together as a team instead of working a separate way. I know
we could invite them in our next internal meeting.
Yeah, we should definitely do that. Our next meeting will be next week, so we should remind them on that.
Maybe we should do more of this public Q&A sessions in the future too. Maybe not weekly, but maybe every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should stick to Hangouts as we've seen in the beginning.
Yeah, we definitely should stay to this format. Hangout on air works great.
Yeah.
It's Google, but who cares?
Yeah, that had to come at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you try to see on your arm for your clock?
It's actually staying right off. No, I didn't.
Well, it's like, oh, what's the time?
Okay. Well, then I guess thanks everyone for your questions. I'm completely ignoring those now.
I'm just upset there's no questions about trees.
No.
Chloe, you can ask about the hut if you want.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah. Let's take the question. What tree would you like to be? And we'll ask everyone here. We start with we start with
not
Chloe.
the Ubuntu weekly Q&A. We are Ubports.
Yes. What tree would you like to be, Chloe?
Let me see if I can get the right name. The cherry blossom tree, which is also called the saxifrage tree, because they're very pretty.
Okay.
I already mentioned the article on Wikipedia that will go up in a few days, I guess. Chloe wants to be.
Chloe wants to be. I already forgot the name. What is the tree you want to be, Marsh Qualback?
Well, it's like I'm thinking about it before I just go for the easy one and say Christmas tree.
And next is Jan. If I pronounce that name correct. Of course, we're doing it. What kind of tree would you like to be?
I really don't have an opinion on that.
Okay.
You have to prepare next time. Florian, any answers on that?
I don't know the English names for so many trees. Maybe I want.
That's why I got for Christmas tree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy. That's not fair. Well, could be Birke, for example, which is actually birch in English, it seems, or birch, or not bitch, but
my problem is
actually there's also a hairy birch, and this is very interesting. Okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone for your questions, and I guess we will see you then in 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I want to be an Android source tree before we leave. Okay.
Shut this down, Marius. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
bye.